Well, hello everybody. Welcome in to the Well Ministries. My name is Jonathan, and we are talking about Proverbs Chapter 3 today. And we'll just wait for some people to come on here, and I'll just welcome in. And if you know, for the past few weeks, we've been discussing the book of Proverbs because I believe this is a season of wisdom. If you would, please, if you like these broadcasts and it blesses you, please like and share the broadcast. That way, more people will watch it. We can get more attention, so on and so forth, because this message needs to be heard. And so, if you would do that, that would bless me. Also, we have a YouTube channel, which I will send a link for. I may put it in the broadcast or do a separate link for it, where these videos are stored. The ones on Proverbs and later ones, they're stored on there, so you can watch them anytime. We also translated to a podcast as well, which I'll link after the broadcast. And I'm going to be starting a blog as well, which we'll get to uh, in a bit. And I've already posted that on my profile, on the page, on the group, so on and so forth. And let me just see. Let me just see here, because I'm showing 0 viewers. I hope that's not the case, but um, okay. Well, we'll just wait. I'll just give it a few minutes for people to come on. Okay. So, hey, honey, how are you? Okay, so, um, we're gonna get started here in a minute because there's a lot of material to cover, and I hope more people come on. But that being said, I am considering starting a Sunday night service, be around 6 p.m. Central Time on Sundays. And uh, if you watch this broadcast, I'd be really interested to see what you would think about if something like that would bless you or minister to you at all. So feel free to kind of leave me a note about that. And um, yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started here and hope that more people come on. If not, they'll watch it later. I don't want to stall too much. So, as you know, we're in Proverbs chapter 3. And where is my keynote? Okay, so I'm going to bring my keynote up here. And so, if you would turn your Bibles to Proverbs chapter 3. Okay, I hope you can see it. I'm going to go back to my broadcast and see if it's up there. Make sure it's up there right. Okay, so we're still catching up. So, like I've been saying, we're on Proverbs chapter 3, and this one is what I would like to call a bit meatier than probably the first two chapters. The first two chapters kind of served more as an introduction to the book, and this is more meatier. It's still along the same lines, on the same concepts, as far as wisdom being important. There are benefits to wisdom, there's benefits to not being wise. But at the same time, it goes a little bit deeper into what the rewards of wisdom are. So let's go ahead and get started here. And and by the way, if you before we get started, if this kind of time of day is inconvenient, please let me know, because again, we want the maximum viewers possible. Um, that being said, let's get started. Okay, so um, let's go with the structure of Proverbs chapter 3. And the structure is pretty simple, even though um, the content is more complex in my view. So the layout is the chapters 3, verses 1 through 27, um, are talking about the benefits of heeding godly wisdom. And that's a simple term, but it kind of details a lot of the benefits. And then verses 27 through 35 are more of the wisdom do's and don'ts. The kind of just some general along previous chapter lines of this is what you do and this is what you don't do uh, to be wise. So that's the outline, and then the major theme. So the major theme of chapter 3 is that there are many benefits to heeding the wisdom of God and dangers if wisdom is not heeded. And this chapter is far more about the benefits, but it's important to know that there's a contrast between being wise and not being wise, and the kind of end result of each thing. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, so let's start with today. You can follow along with your Bible. Again, we use the New Living Translation here, but most of the verses will be on the slides today. Some won't, but most will. So we're going to start with chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. And it says, My child, never forget the things that I've taught you. Store my commands in your heart. If you do this, you will live many years and your life will be satisfying. And the kind of the overarching message of this one is obedience to God brings a peaceful, satisfying life. And I think it's important that we remember that we need to not just hear, but comprehend this wisdom. We need to store it in our heart, because letting it pass like we often can do will not be fruitful. But if you do store it in your heart, again, this is a literary technique, but it's still the same. If you heed wisdom and store the commands of the Lord in your heart, you will live many years and your life will be satisfying. And I can say, as someone who, as we all have, who both have obeyed and disobeyed God's will and wisdom, that life is more satisfying when you are obedient to the Lord and observe the wisdom of God. And I hope I live a long time. I plan on it, and I hope the Lord blesses me with that. I've been much more blessed when I have heeded the commands of wisdom and the precepts of the Bible and of this book, um, than when I was not doing it, because the world is fleeting and this is not. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is chapter 3, this is verse 3 and 4. Verse 3 and 4 says, Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, or man, as other verses say, and you will earn a good reputation. This is why I love the New Living Translation, because other translations, which is what I study from another translation, is the words are a bit more obtuse, so to speak, or complicated. But in here, this is really simple. Kindness and loyalty, especially godly kindness and loyalty, brings favor and a good reputation in the sight of God and man. And this is something that this is a deeper concept, I think, and something that in a society of instant gratification and kind of every man for himself and you know, climb up by your bootstraps, this can get this can be an opposition to that, because sometimes loyalty and kindness, or most times, require patience, require selflessness. It requires dedication, despite what other people may do. If you're, and that's why this principle has to be wired deeply in our hearts, because if someone's a jerk to me, at work or something, I don't want to be kind back to them and loyal to them. You don't have to be loyal to every single person, but hey, Brother Rich, how are you? But we need to be loyal and kind to people, and regardless of the circumstances. If it's written on our heart as a principle, we won't lose it. But if we make it situationally based, then we can lose it. And once we do that, we will find favor with God and man. And I've had a lot of situations where the loyalty and kindness initially doesn't earn you favor with man. But eventually, in God's system of wisdom, it does. Um, I've been loyal to people that I thought that I shouldn't have been loyal to or kind to. And even in those situations, the Lord rewarded me for that kindness and that loyalty. And to find favor with God and a good reputation with Him, especially, is worth more than 10,000 people's good reputation with 10,000 people. But still, either way, these principles of being loyal and being kind are crucial. And in this day and age, in this society, people are so opposed on so many things, we forget that. So even with people that we oppose politically, or people that we oppose, they're in another religion, or whatever, or they're pushing the vaccine, or whatever we're opposed to, we still need to treat them with kindness. Kindness, you can never go wrong with kindness. The old phrase, kill them with kindness. It's very, very true. And so, it's a very important and a very deep concept. So that's kind of, just keep that in mind. Be loyal and be kind, and the Lord will bless you. Okay, now we have verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. And the main point of this one is pursuing wisdom helps us avoid bumps in the road of life. So I kind of looked up, when I looked up in the version, I looked up the word paths, what paths means. And path literally means, in the Hebrew, it means road, like the road of life, if you will. It means really like a path, or a way forward, so to speak. And what this says to me is, especially in this culture, is the following. We all can make our man-made plans, and it's responsible to make plans. Okay? And when we make plans, we start journeying down the road of life, so to speak. But even with all the plans we make, we still need to trust in the Lord, because He sees everything and we don't. So when we seek Him with all of our hearts and trust in Him with all of our hearts, no matter where the path takes us, because there's all kinds of unanticipated events that happen, bumps in the road, turns, whatever you call it. But if we are seeking him and his will, he will guide us in which choice to make and which path to take. And like I said, in this world, there's opposite of this world, because we can be confident in our own plans. We can plan to have this job for 10 years, make so much money, have a family, have whatever, you name it. But there will always be curves along the way. And curves in life can either destroy you or boost you. And if your confidence is in your own plans, and you're not trusting the Lord and looking to him as a compass, you will be lost. You will be lost on the path of life. And many people are that way, because even believers, I've counseled many people that when things go wrong, they don't know where to go, because they think they have to do it with their own self, which there are actions you take. But ultimately, when something happens, when a loss of a loved one happens, or a job loss happens, I have to know that God is in control of that. And I have to trust him and ask him, okay, Lord, what next? What do you want me to do here? Where do you want me to go? So forth and so on. That's very important. And so that's very important. That's a very important concept. Again, these are pretty deep concepts that we're talking about here. Let's go to chapter 3, verse 7 through 8. If you have any questions, please ask in your or comments. Please ask and just type them out, and we'll proceed from there. Um, okay, now don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. Listen here. Pursuing wisdom brings physical healing and refreshment. Kind of bouncing back on the previous verse, don't be impressed with your own wisdom or your own plans or your own thoughts. I take this to mean don't be arrogant about those things. Because, again, so many people just run towards what they think they want in this world, and then they get knocked around once things happen. Instead, like this verse says, we need to fear the Lord, meaning we respect him and look to him as the source of wisdom, and we turn away from the things of this world, from evil. Okay? And when you do that, and this appears many more times in the Bible, but healing comes. Healing in your body, physical healing. If if your leg is broken, your arm is broken, that healing can come, but also refreshment. And that's some interesting words in the language. Uh, it talks about, when it talks about strength for your bones, the bones are talking about um, energy, more energy. And as someone who deals with energy loss a lot and chronic fatigue type stuff a lot, that blesses me, because I need that quite a bit. Energy, the when we follow God's path, we have energy, we have physical healing, we're more healthy than we would be otherwise. And if you see this with people who are overworked, they'll turn to smoking, drinking, drugs, which racks their body. It destroys their body over time. Instead, if we heed wisdom and fear the Lord, reverence Him as the source of things, we are promised health and strength. Now, does that mean we'll never be sick? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means that you'll probably be more healthy than if you follow the ways of the world. I come from a family who not a lot of Christians there. And I can say my wife's family has a lot of Christians there, and they love the Lord. And if you compare one family to the other, and I know this is not always the case at all times, but generally speaking, my wife's family is healthier in a lot of different ways. They are healthier doing a lot more than my family is. And so this is key. Don't be arrogant with your own plans and your own wisdom. Even in the spirit, even spiritually. Don't think you have everything together, or you'll see what happened with the election. You know, the, you put your chips in one basket, kind of arrogantly thinking the Lord can't do what you think the other result is, and then He does it, and then you're made looking like a fool. And so just humility and the respect of the Lord are key elements. Okay, next. This is verses 9 through 10. Uh, Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then He will fill your barns with grain, and your vats will overflow with good wine. And the barns and the vats are referring to food and drink, of course. If you know what barns are for and vats, food and drink. And the lesson to that is giving to the Lord brings prosperity. Now, most of you know who will listen to this that I am not a big prosperity person. I'm not a prosperity pimp. But there's no doubt, and I have been blessed enough to receive that when you give to the Lord, and not just financially, but in this case it is talking financially. When you bless the Lord, He will bless you. And the blessings are not always financial, but in this case they are financial. And so I would encourage you, I'll just take the time to say this, and I don't normally do this, but if this content blesses you, consider blessing me. And if you want PayPal, you can ask for it, or just be sure to bless your people who are feeding you. Bless the pastors and the leaders who give their time to preach to you, to prepare lessons, to do PowerPoints. Just honor them, and that honors the Lord, and then the Lord honors and blesses you. So that's pretty straightforward there. And just notice, as you notice, all these things, just blessing upon blessing upon blessing comes with these verses here. Okay, let's take verses 11 through 12. My child, don't reject the Lord's discipline, and don't be upset when He corrects you. For the Lord corrects those He loves, just as a father corrects a child in whom He delights. And the main lesson from this: discipline from the Lord is a sign of love from Him. So, if we were to, this is very interesting because we have the child father dynamic here. And when I think about discipline from the Lord, I think, and I'll put myself in this category. I think we, as a generation that has been fatherless to a large degree, I don't think that we have a good knowledge of what discipline actually is. Because discipline to me, I'll just say for me, discipline to me for many years looked like yelling, screaming, um, verbal abuse. It looked like just like I said, yelling and screaming and sometimes as a kid, whipped rear end and stuff of that nature. And discipline is not always that way. Real discipline from God is, from my experience, the still small. It will start with the still small voice of correction or a leaning of don't do that. Don't touch that. Or once you've touched it, stay away from it. Back away from it. And then when you don't listen to that, he'll begin to ramp it up. Hey, stay away. The voices will become louder. Stuff in the natural will start to happen. Multiple ways of getting our attention. And then finally, sometimes he will knock loudly and say, don't do that. And then he'll let you have consequences if you do continue to do that. So part of this is recognizing when the Lord is disciplining us. We have to recognize that we're not being punished by him or abused by him, but we are being disciplined because he loves us. We're being corrected because he loves us. And as the verse says, a father who doesn't correct doesn't love his child. Um, I've seen fathers who correct, and I've seen parents who correct and parents who don't correct. And it's obvious to me, you can see the correction, you can see proper correction. And as you do that, if you're a parent, you correct your children and guide them to the right path. God does the same thing. Okay, Jonathan, you're going off course. Let me bring you back. Let me just bring you back. And it's because he loves us. But again, many of us don't understand that because we haven't had good discipline. We've had bad discipline. We've had abuse. Many of us, we don't have a proper relationship with God because of that. We think he's out to get us. I used to think that. I used to think that he didn't like me. That I had to prove myself to him, and I had to all those things. Correction is a blessing. It shows that he loves us. So just remember that. And this is a benefit of wisdom, ironically enough. When you become sensitive to the Lord, you become sensitive to his discipline. When you become sensitive to the ways of God, the voice of God, you become sensitive to his discipline. So whereas before you may not have felt his discipline in a given area, now you do once you yield it over to him. And once you feel that, we welcome it. It's a blessing of wisdom. Okay, so chapter 3, verses 13 through 18 are kind of just a summary of what we've been talking about so far. So I'll just go ahead and read that. It's just restating a lot of the same concepts as before. Okay. Joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. So I find interesting the word tree of life there. If you think about it, there's a tree of life in the Garden of Eden. And it's restating a lot of the same benefits here. But I think of when I read this just now, I thought a lot of this is worldly wisdom versus godly wisdom. A contrast. And a lot of people think on this world and in this culture that the more money you have, that's it. The goal is money, possessions, cars, wealth. That's what life is all about. Yet this says wisdom is what life is all about. It's more precious than gold, more precious than diamonds, more precious than silver. Wisdom is, and it's a tree of life, the very tree of life, which is God Himself. And you will never find true happiness in this world if you do not pursue wisdom. Happiness is fleeting if you do not pursue wisdom. Happy are those who hold her tightly. Very important. Okay, let's continue on. Verses 19 through 20. I'll correct my spreadsheet there. Okay. By wisdom the Lord founded the earth. By understanding He created the heavens. By His knowledge the deep fountains of the earth burst forth, and the dew settled beneath the night sky. And the key lesson there is wisdom is a blueprint of creation. Imagine that. So, God created the heavens and the earth. He created man. He created woman. He created the animals. He created everything. The mountains, the paint, the painted sky we see at sunset. God created all of those things, but it was by wisdom. Just imagine God with the paintbrush. Wisdom is the paint. Wisdom is the paintbrush. God's looking at an empty void. He's got a paintbrush in his hand. He's going to paint earth, the sky, humanity, everything. The paintbrush he's using is wisdom. The blueprints. When Lauren and I got this house about a year beforehand, we saw some blueprints for the house. The house was not built yet, but we saw blueprints. And the blueprints gave us hope and excitement as to what was to come. Well, wisdom is what God, the blueprints of humanity and the earth is wisdom. And so, wisdom is a deep well. If you tap that well and not the world's wisdom, you can have the wisdom of creation, the wisdom of God. It's a very, very deep well. Right, they are in my office. They're over to my side, over to the side here. Okay, next, verse 21 through 22. My child, don't lose sight of common sense and discernment. Hang on to them, for they will refresh your soul. They are like jewels on a necklace. The Hebrew there for jewels and necklace talk about honor there. So, common sense and discernment refreshes your soul and brings honor. Why does it bring honor and refresh you? Because the common sense you have and discernment help you make the right decisions. Um, I will tell you that, like I've told you before on these broadcasts, that there have been many mistakes that I've made because I have not listened to discernment. I did not hang on to the discernment because, see, the still small voice of discernment is easily outweighed if our soul is hurt. You know, I wanted things, I wanted ministry, I wanted things on my own. Instead of trusting and believing and listening, once I saw I pursued the wrong thing. I didn't hang on to common sense and discernment. Thankfully, God put many people in my life who eventually got to me and said, "Hey, look, you're not in the right place." But it's so important because at the end of my life, at the end of your life, I've lost both my mother, my stepfather, my natural father, and you know, I don't I don't want to be that person who, when they're remembered, aren't remembered for what God used them for. They're remembered for whatever. When we lose sight of common sense and discernment, we lose our vision and we can lose our destiny. We can lose everything. I think of my mother. She gained in her later years, in her retirement years. She gained She always had she gained common sense as she got older, and she gained discernment when it came to what her call was. Because I mean, she had always worked in the criminal justice system, but in her later years, she worked in a ministry for like a halfway house. And as she did that in her later years, she was honored. There was honor there for her in that calling, in that place. She made a difference in people's lives. And it was like jewels on a necklace for her. Whereas previous to that, there might not have been as many. But she found that purpose and she found that common sense. And so she has those jewels. And that honor came to her later on. So the great thing about the goodness of God is you can go without common sense and discernment for, you know, who knows how many years, 50 years, 60 years or whatever. And there's a chance. God always gives us a chance to see the truth. He always, like the good shepherd, brings the sheep home and brings that common sense, that discernment back if the person will take it. So just hang on to them. Hang on to them. And if you think that your life, I know some people who are struggling right now, and there's honor in every life. And when you turn around from making bad decisions and start to make good decisions, honor comes, refreshing comes, peace comes. But to do that, it takes that common sense. It takes that discernment. It takes the ability to see clearly about our own life. Because you can't fix something that you don't know is wrong, that you can't see is wrong. I can tell you till you're blue in the face that you have a drinking problem, but until you understand you have that drinking problem, you're not going to do anything about it. I can tell you until you're blue in the face that you're hyper spiritualized and your relationships in your life are failing. But until you understand that, what I say doesn't make a difference. We have to not lose sight of common sense. Common sense is of God. Discernment is of God. We don't just believe everything our favorite people tell us. We apply those filters. I could preach on that all night long. Okay, let's go to the next one. We got a few more slides left here. Okay, now we're going to go to chapter 23 through 26. They keep you safe on your way, and your feet will not stumble. You can go to bed without fear. You will lie down and sleep soundly. You need not be afraid of sudden disaster or the destruction that comes upon the wicked, for the Lord is your security. He will keep your foot from being caught in the trap. And the lesson is the Lord protects the wise. Um, Again, this refers to what the last chapter talked about. Talked about the security of wisdom and common sense and discernment. These things go hand in hand. When I have a centered view of my life and I'm using common sense and discernment, I can sleep peacefully because I have when you're operating in wisdom and you're operating as a child of God, there is a clarity that comes to life. There's a clarity and a purpose that comes. So I can go to bed tonight knowing that I have a purpose and a destiny. I know what I have to do tomorrow. I know that God's got my back. So I can be at peace. And it reminds me there's several verses in the Bible that talk about, trusting God and you don't know what tomorrow will bring. Well, one of the things I was raised with was, well, you have to make sure you provide. You have to make sure that you do enough to provide. You have to, you're always going to be short on money, so you have to do what you have to do to provide. And there was a constant worry about provision. And I understand why that could be, because life is not easy. Especially if you're a single parent or, other circumstances. And so what happened was there was a lot of fear there. There's a lot of hasty decision making there. Not a lot of common sense sometimes because of the rat race. The rat race to feel like that you always have to be worried about money, that you always have to be providing that I have to let my family suffer because I'm doing ministry or those kind of things. And so that kind of worry can consume people. It can consume you. It will not keep you safe if you're focused on those things. Because ultimately you're running hard at something that is temporal. You're not running the race that God has given you. You're running the race that you think you need to run. And that leads to blindness and confusion and worry and fear. I'll never forget in my childhood that, my family had a lot of worry in it. And I began to worry a lot. And I still do. Honestly, that's a problem for me. I worry. But in recent years, I worry a lot less. and that has increased my peace level. Lauren has unbelievable peace. A fire could break out somewhere, and she's in the middle of it, and she would not lose her peace. That's how much peace she has. And over the years, and I've learned that's because she trusts the Lord. She trusts Him in every situation. Not perfectly, of course, but a lot more than I have historically. So, and it's because she has a clear-eyed vision, she has common sense, and she has discernment. And that is what we need to follow. And the Lord, if you follow that, the Lord will protect us even when we make mistakes. It's the direction that matters. Okay, 27 through 28. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. If you can help your neighbor, don't say, come back tomorrow and then I'll help you. And that's kind of an obvious point, but help others when you can. So, and this is something that I could do better at, probably. People may not think so, but we need to bless people when we can. Whenever people come in our direction and, people need help, I've looked the other way on occasions. But see, when I've looked away, it's because I haven't discerned what God wants to do. The encounters that we have with people can be God opportunities, even when we don't think so. When I take a call at work, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to bless someone. We have this thought that, and it is important to evangelize, but we have this thought that somehow that we don't represent God unless we are proselytizing. Us evangelicals continue to think that way. But that's not true. We represent God in every encounter that we have. And when we have that, when we have those encounters, we can be blessed by God in ways that we don't imagine. But the only way we can see that is through discernment and common sense. Okay, let's go to verse 29 through 32. We're almost done. Don't plot harm against your neighbor, for those who live nearby trust you. Don't pick a fight without reason when no one has done you harm. Don't envy violent people or copy their ways. Such wicked people are detestable to the Lord, but He offers His friendship to the godly. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. Well, it'll be recorded on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go back and watch it. You can go back and watch the rest of it. What you're not hearing now. So the lesson of this one is don't cause strife or violence. And I think about this scripture, and I think of I think of social media when I think about this, because I think of there are certain apps that like are neighborhood apps, and people are always calling each other out, like, you know, hey, don't wreck your car into me, or hey, you're going 60 and a 30. Get out of there. You need to be arrested, or, crazy. Some of this stuff can be crazy, and Lord knows what I'm talking about too. But um, we don't need to be picking fights. And honestly, in the U.S., we like to pick fights, especially political fights. Our country is so divided right now that in the political realm, it's constant warfare almost. And I think we lose sight that they are our neighbors in a sense. I'm sure around here I have liberal neighbors. I don't know that, but there's probably at least one of them. A majority are conservative, I know, but probably at least one or two of them are not conservative. Well, I don't hate them. I don't pick fights with them. I don't do violent things to them. I don't go postal on them, which there's been more shootings lately. We don't pick fights. We don't pick up strife. We don't do that. You can We've lost the art of disagreeing agreeably. You can disagree with someone and still love them. You can, you know, um, you can not know someone and they do something that annoys you and you can still love them. Again, going back to those social media communities, I'm thinking of times where they would say things like, "Oh, there's a suspicious car parked. It looks and they have tinted windows." Stuff like that. Like people are so suspicious, and there are times to be suspicious. Don't get me wrong, but we need to be more loving than that. Our first response don't need to be handcuffs or don't need to be fisticuffs. We don't resort to violent tendencies or violent ways. We need to approach people with a common sense manner, with discernment, in a godly way. And finally, verses 33 through 35. The Lord curses the house of the wicked, but he blesses the home of the upright. The Lord mocks the mockers, but is gracious to the humble. The wise inherit honor, but fools are put to shame. And the key lesson here: honor, intimacy with God, and blessings await those who heed the wisdom. Kind of a wrapping up of everything that's really been said here. He blesses the upright, he's gracious to the humble, and the wise inherit honor. So again, we go back to the literary technique. We have promises and then we have curses. Blessings and curses. And every day we make these choices. And so many people are on autopilot. They're in their own little world. And they don't see the impact of choice A versus choice B. They don't recognize, they just go and they go and they go and they go. And they're missing so much. And so I just pray that the Lord would help us all to follow the path of wisdom and to lower the heat. This country is so heated in a lot of different ways right now. As the church, we're heated towards each other. I think if we turn the volume down on our lives, our warfare with the opposites of what we believe, we can actually hear the voice of God better and get that wisdom and get those blessings. So that's my final encouragement. Turn the volume down and listen. And when you listen, and you obey what you hear, you'll be blessed. And that's my message for today. So, with that being said, I just want to repeat what I said in the beginning for those who missed it or don't, whatnot. my Siri responded to me. That's so hilarious. Be quiet, iPad. Okay, so um, uh, just to let you guys know, I'm thinking of doing starting a Sunday night around 6 p.m. service because I know there are people who aren't going to church or who would like a message on Sundays, but I would like to know some feedback on that before I commit to that. So if you have any ideas or if you would like that, just feel free to let me know. Um, make a comment, give me a time that works well for you on that. My goal is to serve here, and I hope that this teaching has served you today. And I just want to thank you all for coming tonight, and be blessed. And I will see you next Thursday. Remember, I'm here generally every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, and the message will be saved on YouTube and on Facebook too. But the message can get lost on Facebook because uh, it's gets lost in the news feed. But they'll be permanently on YouTube as well as podcast. Okay. Well, with that, I wish you all a good evening. Sayonara. Be blessed. Bye bye.